So if you spend any amount of time on the internet, you've probably encountered what's called a dopamine detox. And a lot of people have talked about it, but I think a lot of the videos aren't particularly useful. They're kind of just view fishing. So in this video, I'm going to give my take on what a dopamine detox is, how you can use it. And if you're someone who spends a lot of time consuming, social media content, or you're doing a bunch of bad habits and you find you can't focus on anything good, it feels ridiculously hard, this is the video for you, because I'm going to show you how to make it easy for you. So first of all, what is a dopamine detox? A dopamine detox is where you basically stop doing high dopamine activities for a period of time. So if you don't know what dopamine is, I did explain it in my last video, but really quickly, it's a hormone in your body and in your brain that basically is the pleasure hormone. So when you eat junk food, for example, you're going to get a dopamine spike from that because your body just likes that happening. And when you're doing something really difficult, there's probably very little dopamine associated with that. So your body kind of regulates what it likes, what it doesn't like with this hormone dopamine, and other hormones as well, but this is kind of the one people talk about the most. So the reason why anyone would stop doing high dopamine activities at all, because it might sound like, well, if these are the fun things, these are the pleasurable things, why would I stop doing them? The reason is because they're not actually good for you, and then they don't actually make you happy. They're not particularly fun. If you think about eating junk food, yes, it's pleasurable, but it's not good for you. It doesn't actually make you feel good. You feel it like tastes nice for a bit, but then after that feeling passes, you actually usually feel worse because it's not good for your mood. So what happens with a lot of people is they do so many bad habits that spike their dopamine that what happens is their brain actually gets used to constant dopamine spikes from unhealthy things, and it stops liking the healthier, crucial habits that you should be doing simply because they don't provide the same dopamine hits as the bad habits. So a few examples of bad habits that provide a lot of dopamine are junk food, social media, content consumption, video games, TV, any kind of addictive substance like drugs or alcohol, technology, which you would try and limit during a dopamine detox, shopping, spending, any other vice or bad habit like gambling. There's so many things that spike your dopamine that are bad for you. In fact, unfortunately, a lot of the things that do spike your dopamine are bad for you. And the reason doing these things, other than the fact that they're all bad habits, is bad for you is because of a thing called baseline dopamine. So I want you to imagine there's like a straight line, and that is your normal dopamine level. Sometimes it'll go up when something good happens, or something not good, but that's something that spikes your dopamine. Sometimes it'll go down when you're feeling unpleasant, etc. But this is your baseline dopamine. You then eat one cookie. So what's going to happen? Of course, your dopamine goes up. It spikes for a second because you've eaten something delicious. And then once you've eaten that cookie, it basically comes back down again. But it doesn't actually come back down to that baseline where it was before. It actually dips below the baseline. So every time you do an instant gratification habit, like all of these ones on screen, your dopamine spikes and then it goes back down a little bit below where it previously was. And what happens if you continually do these bad habits that spike your dopamine is it spikes your dopamine and then it goes down, it dips below where it was before, and over and over and over again, this is actually lowering your baseline dopamine lower and lower until your baseline dopamine is so low that effectively you can't do anything that doesn't, unless it spikes your dopamine. Something that doesn't spike your dopamine at all is just of no motivation to you whatsoever, and you're just craving dopamine spikes constantly. And this could be the position you're in right now. Maybe it's not quite that bad, but I know a lot of people are in that position. So that's a little bit about dopamine detoxes. Also, I already said this, but the habits are all unhealthy and blocking your purpose, and we'll talk about purpose in a second. But now that we've talked about the benefits and why it's important, let's talk about how you can actually do a dopamine detox. So the first step, which everyone skips because they usually go straight to the second step, the first step is identity journaling. So who do you actually want to be coming out of this? Chances are, if you are doing a dopamine detox, you're doing a bunch of habits you don't like that make you not like yourself, like scrolling endlessly or eating a lot of junk food, etc. That's probably not the person you want to be. If you could, character select the person you want to be out of anything, you could give yourself absolutely any trait. I guarantee you wouldn't pick any of the bad habits you're doing right now. So I want you to grab a pen and paper and actually journal about the kind of person you want to be one day. The person who it can be as unrealistic as you want, so long as it's achievable. Even if you're going to write you have millions of dollars, that's still achievable. Just journal about the kind of person you want to be and actually look at that person, create the new character. That is who you want to be coming out of this. You don't want to continually be the same person. Now that you've written those traits down of this person you want to be, that is how you have to start behaving. It might not be easy straight away, but you're going to have to start doing the things that person does to become a better person. So that's step one. Always have the identity locked down. A lot of people, they try doing different habits, but it's like imagine a rubber band, for example. The more you try to do habits that you don't normally do, like you see this with people trying to eat healthy or diet or exercise when they don't normally do that. It's like stretching the rubber band, and eventually it becomes so incredibly unpleasant that they kind of snap back. They normally snap back, they let go of the rubber band, and it like snaps back to where it was before. That is most people trying to change their behavior and trying to be a better person. And the reason for that is because they don't actually change their identity. They're still, the fat person or the person that doesn't exercise. They're just trying to do extra habits, and eventually it's too much. That their dopamine is too low, and it snaps back. What you need to do is accept the identity of an entirely new person. So now that you've written out the person you actually want to be, instead of, stretching the rubber band every time you do something you don't normally do, this is the new you. You do these things. And whenever you do something that isn't good for you, which you still will do, obviously, going forward, you'll make mistakes. Even I make mistakes. When you do these things, instead of those being the normal things, you'll actually start to feel bad. When you've journaled about this character you want to be, whenever eat junk food or something when you're not supposed to, it'll actually make you feel terrible compared to how it used to make you feel. And that's a good thing. You should feel terrible when you're doing bad habits instead of good. That's a sign that you're actually starting to like yourself more, and you're on track to becoming a better person. So that's a good thing. The second thing we're going to do is set rules. So what can you do? What can't you do? What's your morning routine? What are your daily habits? What's your night routine? How long are you going to do this for? Are all questions you should be asking yourself. So what I'd recommend you do is you can print this out if you want, or you can write it in your iPhone notes or write it on a piece of paper. Just the number one thing is make sure the rules are clear, and they should be pretty simple, and also put them in a spot where you're going to be able to see them constantly, so you don't just write them down and forget about them. You should be able to see them until you can see them, photographically, because you've looked at the piece of paper so much you can recall it in your brain. So what can't you do? A lot of the things you can't do are on this slide, so if you want to pause the video or take a screenshot, I think those are all good things to limit. The things I would definitely recommend that you completely cut out are any kind of short form content. All of that needs to go, no exception at all. There's no reason to watch YouTube Shorts or TikToks or anything like that. You try not to go on TikTok or Instagram at all, because if you go on those apps, like, yes, you can message people, yes, you can post stuff, but we all know if you go onto Instagram, you're going to start scrolling and looking at stuff. It's just the way it is. So I'd recommend you can even delete the apps. It doesn't actually delete your account. You can delete the app and then re-download it and log back in after you've done your dopamine detox. That might be a little bit easier. Other things you can cut out include, what do we got on the last slide? Yeah, I'd recommend cutting out all social media if you can. You can make an exception for like Messenger, or if you need to talk to if you have like a work group chat, you can make an exception for that if you want, but don't do anything else on it. You should be cutting out all junk food. It's actually not that hard to go 3 days without eating unhealthy food. Like, it really isn't that hard, even if you find it difficult, and then as soon as it's over, you try and eat junk food again, which ideally doesn't happen if you've done step 1 properly, but it really isn't that difficult, and you'll find once you go back to eating junk food after a few days of not doing it, it'll actually feel terrible and you won't enjoy it anymore. Other things to cut out, video games. If you're a big video gamer, you definitely play video games for way more than an hour a day, even if you say you do. So I'd recommend you cut that out. Any other really bad vices like alcohol and that kind of thing, cut those out as well. Other than that, that's basically it. It's kind of up to you what you want to do and not do. Some people like to cut out music as well. You can do that if you want. It's totally up to you. If you need a hand planning your dopamine detox, comment below and I can reach out to you, or you can email me if you want and I'll give you a hand. A few other things I'd recommend you write down are what your morning routine is. So if you think about the best possible life, a good life. A good life is made in good years. A good year is made in good months. A good month is made in good weeks. A good week is made in good days. And a good day starts in the morning. And a lot of people have absolutely terrible morning routines. You don't have to do the whole Ashton Hall morning routine. That's just, that's silly. We'll leave that. But a lot of people just get out of bed and they check their phone straight away and do all that stuff. And it literally sets your day up for failure. So what I'd recommend everyone do in their morning routine is, number 1 rule, don't touch your phone at all for any reason other than maybe pausing your alarm. I'd recommend you also get out of bed and go to bed at the same time every day if possible. I can't actually do that right now because of the nature of my work, but I would recommend you try and do that if you can. I'd also recommend for your morning routine, you set a task to do immediately in the morning. Fans of the channel will know I've talked about this before, but if you have like a frog task, which if you want to know what that is, comment below, but the task you do straight away in the morning, if you can have something written down that you're going to do immediately, so you can quickly do that and get one win under your belt. Maybe it's meditating, maybe it's working on an important purposeful project. That is a really good way to start your day as well. And daily habits, you can write down things you want to do every single day. Maybe it's meditating every day. Maybe it's something to do with language learning, which I've talked about a lot on this channel. And I'd also recommend you plan a night routine. So if you're going to bed at the same time every day, that's great. Set a period where you can't check any kind of technology at all, and maybe set yourself a habit to do before bed, like reading, and that can be good. And then set the period of time. I'd recommend you start with 3 days. If you try and set yourself like a 2-month dopamine detox, you probably won't make it that long. Just try and do it for 3 days, and you will see the effect it has on you. And step 3 for a dopamine detox is to just do it and reflect on it every single night. So what I recommend after every day is you grab the pen and paper and you just write one paragraph about what went well, what didn't go well, did you break any rules? And if you do break any rules, it doesn't mean you have to restart, and it certainly doesn't mean you can, you've ended your streak, so you might as well break all the bad habits again. That's so wrong, it's not even funny. But just journal whenever you make a mistake. What can you improve upon? What did you do right? And you'll find you actually make a lot of progress from there. So a few things to talk about that you can add in for like low dopamine habits that are good for you are reading, meditation, gratitude. Like gratitude is just showing gratitude, so you can write gratitude letters to people. You can write a gratitude letter to someone but just not even give it to them if you don't want to. You can gratitude journal. You can journal on anything if you want. You can journal about your purpose, what you're grateful for, what you want to improve on, anything like that. Listening to podcasts can be good. Walking, nature, sunlight, a sleep routine, any kind of stretching, and also creative projects. I think these are all the low dopamine habits. There might be more that I've forgotten, but those are all really good habits that are low dopamine, so they'll do the opposite of what we talked about before. They might not be particularly pleasurable to do immediately, but they'll actually raise your baseline dopamine over time, and you'll find it way easier to do these things. And the good thing about these things is they are good for you, and they give you, it might be serotonin, I'm not 100% sure, but another hormone that actually makes you feel happy. But it's not like, like a dirty, like, oh, you've done something, like eating junk food kind of happiness. It's more like a spiritually fulfilled happiness, and I think that's the kind of happiness you want. A few other good habits include exercise, like the gym and running, I think are really good. Cold showers, they're not particularly low dopamine, they are stimulating, but they can be difficult to do. But these are really good. You should be doing these hopefully every day, if not every day, most days. And the final habit I've written is productivity. And the reason that you might think, oh, that's not really a habit. It's not a habit, but I'll explain why I've put it there for a second. The real benefit of a dopamine detox is now, not only are you have a better mind space and you feel happier, but you are, you have so much more time to work on your purpose, and you've mentally upgraded yourself to be way more productive and focused. So now is the time to start working on your purpose. If you don't know what your purpose is yet, you need to find the next layer. So I'd recommend you journal on what brings you happiness, what you find easy to do, and start working on the next layer of your purpose. Maybe it's the next layer of your purpose is getting in the best health possible. Maybe it's getting in the best shape possible. Maybe it's, quitting your job and finding a different job that's going to allow you to have more free time to work on a personal project. Maybe it's uploading YouTube videos. It could be literally anything, the next layer of your purpose, but you owe it to yourself to figure that out. So guys, that is the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you need any help, comment below. Thank you for watching and have a good one.